Yeah. Let me set up my. The thing I was getting before was feedback. Okay. How about now? See if I can pop it up. Yep, the meters are going. And YouTube chat. Can you guys hear me now? Really low. Okay, that's better. Yeah, I'm gonna get some feedback. That's the only thing that's gonna get me through my own microphone. All right, let's see if I can. Testing 1, 2, 3. Now maybe everybody can hear me. Yeah, now it's popping up in the audio mixer. So. Okay. All right. We'll get back to normal here. How about this? I can turn the volume up. Is this better? So that's better? All right. I can actually hear myself on this, so I'm wondering if. Turn off the speakers. All right, can you guys hear me now? Yeah, I know it sounded like I was on an airplane, doing trains, not airplanes. All right, in settings. Oh, got it. Is that better? All right. Give that a try. Is that better? Well, you need to hear that YouTube kind of low volume. All right. Turn up the volume a little bit. Is it still echoey? It sounds echoey to me. Isn't that for you? Okay. All right. I'll see if I can turn it up a bit. Thank you everyone for being patient. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's not getting that. All right. Crank it up. Is that better? Can you guys hear me now? Yeah. The voice inside my head. Okay. Perfect now. Okay. Annoying for me. Okay, I'll turn down my volume in my headphones here. All right, we'll try and get through this. If I have any more issues, I'm sure Heath is on call. His rates are a bit exorbitant, but I can afford them. And so, what I'm going to try and do tonight in the time allowed is build a switch. And I've pre-made all the parts and pre-filed them and have them all ready, and I'll explain how I did that because I've got other parts that are in the process. So I'll bring up this other shot and see if I can explain it. Alrighty. So Fast Tracks makes these printable templates, and this is for a number 5 and HO scale. I'm going to use a code 83 rail. I'm using PC ties, and I've used Elmer's glue to hold down the printout on the home sew, and then I've used spikes to hold on the PC ties, which I've cut to length. The PC ties are in strategic locations to cover the frog and the points before and after and give the switch enough support when I'm done that I can pull the spikes out, and then I can place this on the layout and then fill in the rest with wooden ties. So we'll show you some of the tools that we're going to use, and these are fast track tools. So here's the point form tool, and there's their price. These will probably make upwards of hundreds of switches each. And the other one I suggest getting is their stockade tool, and the stockade tool cuts the notch for the points in the outside rail. And then, of course, you're going to want to use gauges and then there's some the other fast track tools that we'll be using tonight. We'll be using some of their solder, and we'll be using good of their soldering tips. Add a couple people as moderators here to keep everyone in lines. Using the Micromark tool car. This is a handy little device that lets you see down through the cars using the Fast Track Special Flux. It's rosin core. It's good for track. And of course the Xeron real nippers. And then they also make these point shaping files that are very handy. And then also the PC ties they sell for turnouts or for regular track. And if you want, you can use a rail roller. It'll save your hands, but it helps you bend the track, and I'll explain that hopefully in a bit. And then just a regular 35-watt soldering iron. You don't need a high watt soldering iron to do any of that. So printed those out. Here is what they call a tie fret. And I'll see if I can hold some of these tools up. And you can see the little PC ties. And when you cut them, like these say Code 80, you cut them in half and in these, and then you use your nippers to cut them to length. It's really handy. They're all laser cut out. They're very sharp. The stockade tool, you can see has a notch that you cut, and it divvies out the bottom of the rail. We'll show you how that works. And they're point form tools. And you can see this is a number 8 for their slip switch, code 70 to 100. I'll show you how we demonstrate to cut the points on that. And also, I suppose also on that I can show you, is it has the frog. So on each end, you can see the little holes, that it's a dual purpose tool. And I also like this frog helper. And you can see this is for a code 70 to 83. And they give you, you buy them, you tell them what size frogs you want. This is a 4, 5, and a 6. You get 3, so, but you have to get 3 in a row, like 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10. Anything like that. All right. So we'll go back to this. And what I did was I cut some rails and I put them in to the point form and the frog form. And I'll go back to me a bit. And once they're in there, you file them. You just have to get a bigger file than this, a big mill file. Good sharp file. And you whittle away. You go one direction. And then you make your frog and your point rails. And what I've done is already made the frog and then put it in the frog helper and soldered it together. And that's what I have for this piece. And this is the frog. This is the most important thing, actually, because everything, when you're hand building a tunnel, obeys the frog. Everything hinges on this part. The most derailments occur here at the points. The second most is at the frog. So you have to get the frog right. I build my turnouts from the inside out, you know. So I always do a frog first, and then I'll do the straight rail here because it's low-hanging fruit. And then I'll do the other outside rail because I can use gauges. And then we'll do the points and end up with the guardrails. So you might as well get something soldered here quick. Use a little micro brush and dab the Fast Track solder or the flux on there. And if you watch any of the Fast Track's videos, one of their biggest things is keeping whatever you're going to solder clean. You know, they want the bottom of the rail really clean. So this is pretty clean. Some people go to extremes. I don't think you need that, but I line up that first one and I get it right over their template, and I'm just going to tack it in place with one solder. And hopefully my iron is still hot here. And I'm actually going to put some solder on my iron and make sure I got that right. Otherwise the rest of the night's going to go tough. All right, hang on a second. I'm going to flip our camera. There we go. There, now I tacked it in and it's going to stay so I can go along to the other points and just solder them in. Let that solder flow right underneath. Should melt the flux and go right in there. You don't want to build up too much solder on the outside, but you can, because we're going to take that down later. I'll tell you a little tip here too. So one of the hints is when you build your frog, switch cameras here. When you build your frog in the frog helper, and you want to use extra solder in there. You want to get as much solder as you can in there because you want that strong and filed down. And so while I'm holding the soldering iron to that, some of the solder that's between the rails will melt down in there. All right. You already know when you went wrong first attempt. Okay, I'm just trying to keep up in chat here. So now that we have our frog in there, now we'll pick up the low-hanging fruit and I'll solder this outside rail. And now we have to get the gauges out. And I use the Micromart track gauges, and I have an NMRA gauge, which is very handy in a number of ways. The solder is also very sticky. It helps the rail stay in place. So the first thing I want to be important is this rail I cut the notch. And so I cut a notch right here. You can kind of see where it's red. And that notch goes here where the points are. And how that works with the stockade. And so I use a marker, and when I lay down the rail, I mark where I have the notch, and then you put it in the stockade till the red just shows. And then you will file that up, and it comes out like this. And then you can see the notch. So that's the most important part about this one. And once I get the notch where it's supposed to go, tack that in. Then I can worry about keeping it in gauge. So there I got that tacked. I didn't even touch the rail. I just let the flux melt and the solder float in there. And so now I'm going to come down to this end because this has to be engaged. And this is where I use these Micromark Code 83 triangle track gauges. And so even though the template may say one thing, these gauges are perfect. So I'm going to solder these in there. These gauges have little notches where the rails go in. And they come in different codes. Code 55, code 40, code 83. These are code 83. And put a little more flux over here. All right, and there we go. And you can even check it with the old reliable NMRA gauge, especially at the frog. And that's perfect. And they're long in there. So now I'll tack down the rest of these and we'll have that outside rail all done. You can just heat it up, let the flux draw the solder underneath. You don't have to push on the rail or anything. And we're all set there. So now I like to do the other side, and this is where the rail roller can come in. Because you have that rail, you do not want to put a straight rail down and then bend it because the tension will always be there. You have to take away the tension. So as you can see, this is pre-bent. It's pre-stressed. And so once again, I'm just going to match up that notch down here because that's the point. And then I'll go up here to where the frog is because I can gauge this and then I can gauge that. And I'll set my point rails gauged to each one. But that notch is the important thing. And you have to use they have to use that rail thing. A lot of people take their hands and they can pre-stress it this way, or do this, which is good too. I've done hundreds of them, so I can do this, but you really risk the chance of slicing your finger open. Ask me how I know. So the rail roller is handy, and if you do it by hand, take your time. Please, please, please. Let's grab another micro brush here. I'll get this rail in, then we'll go to chat and do some questions because the point rails get a bit taxing. So that's right where it's supposed to be. That looks pretty good. And you want those notches to line up right across each other because it's real important for the points to flip. All right. That one moved. There we go. All right. So then we can put our Gauges down at this end. Get that as close as we can to the frog. There we go. And we'll check that at the frog because that's ground zero and that's spot on. All right. So pop out the chat here. Everybody's saying hi. All right. So why does it say 9 p.m. when it's clearly 10 p.m.? Well, see, the railroads invented this thing called standard time. Anyway, what about the radius benders? Advertise all the time in micromarket. Yeah, anything that you can do to, you know, there's a lot of people make homemade ones of these. It's basically roller bearings, and the device on the bottom moves this up and down to select the curvature. And I should show you sometime. One of the really cool things about this is that if you have a hunk of rail that you want to use or something and it's all wavy, you can set this up and run it through twice. It'll be curved, run it through the opposite way, and you'll have a perfectly straight piece of rail. So it's an interesting tool from code 140 to 148. It's a lifetime tool. You only need one. You can see mine's pretty beat up. The gauges would be helpful with, yeah, Dan, yeah, the gauges are always helpful with flex track if you're making the joints, coming together, just to keep that in there. If you have longer joints, you're cutting out the plastic ties. It's almost nice to put in the PC ties and things like that. So, Randall Ellison, hello. And Chad Martin, a rail saver. Well, yeah, it could be. If you have bent up rail, that spinner works just great. Just great. So, all right. So let's go back. I showed you how the stockade works. So now we'll do the point form. So the point rails you put it in the ends. Like here's where it says frog and then points. So you tighten these down by hand and then there's an Allen wrench that you'd use to tighten these up and go at it that way. So and then those are the two frogs that you'd put together and make the frog rail. So the points are kind of odd. And I made one here. Here it is. Of course, I misplaced things. And you put it in there, and the device you can see has this long. When you put it in the end, your rail sticks out, and it shows exactly how far to put it out. And then you file and file and file. And the thing with the points, I'll open this up, is when you pull them out, you end up with a very, very flimsy end here. And what you do is you actually peel it back. Now I'll go to my other camera. You can see it here. So you peel it back. You can kind of see it's flimsy. It's not usable for anything. So you peel that back and you get your cutters. And then at that point, I'll do it the other way. At that point, you nip it off because that's wasted material. So now you have a really fine point. And this is where these Japanese little angled files are. They're kind of trapezoidal. And it's good for cleaning up and making that point, as I drop things here, making that point down to as sharp as a point as you can, so there's nothing that the wheels will pick on, you know. And that's what I've done here with the point rail. Like this is, we'll do the straight rail because that's the low-hanging fruit first. So the point here has been filed at the top of the rail down to a real fine point. And that's going to fit in there. And then it also comes back and it forms part of the wing rail, the guardrail on the inside. And the guardrail on the inside is measured with this flangeways portion of your NMRA gauge. So I'll get some solder going here. We'll continue building our switch, put the flux down. And you don't want to tie it in too soon because you want, this portion has to flex. This is the part that bends and puts stressors on. So I'm not going to solder it to this tie. I'm going to solder it back here. I can get it in there. And I want to bring that right up to the notch. And then I'm going to see, now I have what happens. So when I soldered here in the frog, there's some solder in the way. So I'm going to file that. And being solder, it just removes real easy. It's just very soft. So the rail can get right up into where it should go. And I can hold that there with a track gauge. And I'm just going to tack that in there. There. And then I'll make sure I got room here, which I do. So then I can solder in these other portions. And before I do that, I'm going to check my gauge here and make sure it's all good. And then I'll solder in the guardrail portion. Now you can even test it out. And if we had point throws, it would stay. But so now we're always, almost done here. So now we'll put in the curved one, and the curved one comes back to the roller again, or your hands, to get the right angle. Now, another quick point is where this bends right here. When you're bending the rail, you may have a longer piece of rail, but you mark it. And I use like a scratch awl here, and I mark it, and then I use my rail nippers on the outside, and I cut a little V, and that allows me to bend that that curve in it. And then I also filed down the outside so any wheels coming towards it this way are not going to pick it. It's angled in. So we'll get that in there. And once again, we'll get the points where it needs to go. There we go. Make sure that's right where I want her. All right. Now you probably notice I didn't solder these over here because I'm waiting. I'm going to use that point rail as my gauge to perfectly put this rail on the outside in its place. So we'll get after these 3 ties and this one. This one you want to do very lightly because you don't want solder coming through where the points are going to hit it. All right. Are we learning anything? Am I boring everyone to death? Nisi's here. Hello, Nisi. Okay. How many turns? Dan's Muller. Okay, so most of these tools are lifetime. The the point form tool. This is the one that'll wear out the sides, but you still should make hundreds out of these. I know people have worn them out because they don't want to file them, and they'll use a motorized sander of some sort, and that'll take extra wear off it. I've got some that are worn down because I've made probably 500-600 turnouts and double things like that. But if you buy their fixtures like this or the ones with the switches, I've sold all mine, and I've sold mine probably for only $10 less than retail because they hold their value. There is no damage to this. This is dirty. A little alcohol and a wire brush, and it looks just like new. The stockades don't take, much damage. So you're spending your time on, your money is buying the PC ties and files, a new file now and then. So, Chad Martin, hand laid. It is in the long run, as you saw the prices of everything laying out to be laid out for this. If the 2 reasons to do this, like I said, one is the price. If you're going to build a whole lot of turnouts, is great. I did it because I want the turnouts exactly as I need them. I always got jealous of seeing people's yards and it just flowed. And so I wanted to learn how to do it. And Heath, for a beginner, I would recommend a fixture. I can do no wrong telling you to buy a fixture and watching their videos. And like I said, You you'll have the fixture, and if you built 50 switches, you'd sell it for what you bought it for. We even tried in our little division to have a fast tracks library where if someone needed them, we could loan it and check it out. But yeah, Randall Olson, 500, no, no. But like I said, if you bought a fixture and learned the skills, then you could make your own just like this. And what I even do beyond the templates, beyond these templates, which they sell, they're free to download in every scale and stuff, is I will go to the layout and lay down a piece of paper with a pencil on two pieces of flax track, and I make number 7.5 turnouts, number 9 curved. I can make anything I want. I've had people dare me to make some things. In fact, in Model Railroad Hobbyist, I had a blog where I made a Y turnout that was narrow gauge with a standard gauge crossing going through both sides. So yeah, get the fixtures, learn the skills. I always have the same one. Your first switch is going to look like it was built by a drunken monkey. Okay? Your second one is going to look like it was built by the high school shop class and they got a B. The third one is going on your layout. And then from then on, I would always, if I had my way, I would have saved my first one just to say how crappy it was to compare it to the new ones. Then you see growth in the hobby. Then you see things like that. So yeah, double crossings you can make. And Pirates of Model Railroad, see ya. Have a good supper. Yeah, you can have turnouts that you can't buy pre-built. Exactly, Randall. Exactly. You can, if you need to fit into an area, if you need, a three-way switch somewhere, it's simple. This is a quick way to get your NMRA civil engineering thing too, and I'll briefly touch on that because I know how much of a touchy subject the NMRA is. But this would qualify for an NMRA Merit Award if I added some track to each end and powered it up. Because they don't care about how it looks. Okay? You have to have it built by you, it has to be in gauge, and it has to operate. 1, 2, 3, that's all you need. So if you went to a Fast Tracks clinic at an NMRA convention and built these turnouts, you could earn merit awards for this because they don't care that it doesn't have all the details. You can add that later. So I'll add the guardrails here quick, and then we'll go into the throws, and then we'll have some more chat. I'll talk about insulating it and a couple of tricks I do. Now these guardrails are cut, and then the ends are bent, and then they're also filed down because you don't want any sharp edges catching your flanges or anything like that. So put that on the outside there. Get the old NMRA gauge to use. Because you don't want that too close or the wheels will ride up. Check that because it looked like it moved. All right, we're all good there. Use a little tool here to move it over. All right. We'll check it again. All right, we're good there. So now I'm going to take one more PC tie, and you can cut this to size. This will be the throw bar. And sometimes if you don't know which side you're going to use or if anything, I just use an extra big one. Let me fix my camera here. I just use one that'll stick out both sides, and then I can choose where I want to drill the hole, you know, for whatever method I'm going to use for switch throws. If you want to put your switch throw on this side or that side, however it goes, or a hole in the middle. But we'll do one, and then we'll do the other. So you kind of only want to get the solder really on the inside of this. So you only want to get it on this side, and you kind of want to build it up because this is going to be the weakest point. So once we get it tacked in there, then I might build up some more solder, and you'll see that. That's the reason everybody at their operating session has their soldering iron warmed up. And then a solder got on the other side, once again, these little pinpoint files are just absolutely brilliant for that. Because that should go right in there. So then we're going to pull it up over here and put that against it. And I'll show you a little trick. I'll get here. And this is a neat thing somebody showed me with aluminum foil. You can do is, see if I even get it to work here. It keeps the solder out from the rails. I think I might have to lift that up a bit. But if you can, well, I won't be able to, but I've slipped tinfoil in between there and that keeps the solder from joining the other rail there. Okay, so flux in there, and clean it off. All right. All right, there we have enough room, I think, in there. This is, you also want to check your flange ways here. Yep. And you get through it. Now rolls. This is where that clear car comes in. And you can see if it rides up on down here on the frog, if there's any bumps or anything. Seems pretty smooth that way. Throw the points. There. Ta-da. So my OBS is going bad. So The next step in this, and now let me see the chat if I got to answer anything here. Yeah. The next step, obviously, is you clean it up with a wire brush, you knock down the solder, but you have to cut the PC ties to insulate it. And I'll show you, you have to cut all of these. You have to put a notch in these, right? Because they're all, and I use the red. So you want to notch all those ties. And then over here, you got to do that as well. But you want to isolate this frog. So where I have the dual ties here, I'm going to cut the rail there, and the dual ties here, I'm going to cut the rails there and gap it. And then all of this will be, the frog will be isolated and just on its own. And what I do is I cut those with a Dremel. Now I don't use a regular Dremel disc. I had pictures of it here in OBS. It doesn't want to show up, but I use these things. They're called the Deco AO Thins. And these are 0.009 thickness, And these are made for jewelers, and I can't bring them up right now. They're made for jewelers, like if you have a gold ring that you need to expand, that you can cut that ring and you're not losing all that much gold. And you can just, I don't even know if you can even see how thin these are. But if you get these, get a box of them. They're kind of pricey. You get the big box of 100. But they're good for gold and metal. They're for jewelers. They're for dentists, things like that. We'll use all things like that. So anything thinner, because the Fast Tracks usually wanted you to go at it with a jeweler's file, and that was such a pain. I just I couldn't cut that, so I had to find a different way. And I saw that a couple of guys in the N scale were using these Deco Thins, and so I ordered them up. Yeah, Sparky, that flat car for the GoPro, it doesn't weigh anything, no, but I just want to know what a GoPro weighs. You have to put couplers on it, or you can just push it around. But I always wondered why they'd sell these at Micromark. And I think I had like store credit or something, and I just ordered one. And then once I started building my own switches, it's been invaluable. It absolutely showed everything. My first switches were terrible because I'd put the little bitty guardrails. I always put these too close. I wasn't using my NMRA gauge, and the wheels would just bounce over it. I'm like, well, what the heck's going on? And then I got that car, and I saw, oh, okay, well, this is good too. Yeah, you can use a hacksaw, Adam, if you have like the real fine jeweler's one. You take it out, clamp it in there, and go through about 12 blades. But I just rather use these Deco Thins. What other questions we got? Okay, Drew's figuring out one turnout's 500, two is 250. Okay, you're doing math. Bulk pricing. Then you gotta figure in rail and the PC ties you have to keep buying. And Anthony Dodge is here. Hello, Anthony. Howdy, I should say. Real quick, early morning. All right. Sparky's showing about cutting plexi. Anything else? Heath, did you see any other questions in there? If I can scroll back, if you guys want to pop them up again now. I haven't annoyed you. And yeah, I can see you making these, Heath. I'm going to build Heath. Heath challenged me and doing a favor. I'm going to try and build Z-scale turnouts. I want to see how that works out. So I got to order up the PC ties, and then and then I'll go at it. But it'll be the same as this. And if I'm successful, maybe I can build him like a little yard ladder so he can stage, 5 or 6 Z-scale trains and then run them out when he wants. But otherwise, like I said, you pop this off and get a wire brush and it cleans up with alcohol. Just scrub it real good with alcohol and then you're good to go, ready to go for the next one. But I'm going to use this one on my upper yard. This will lead to I need to switch to a caboose track. I model cabooses there. Yeah, Sparky, I think they have Z-scale jigs. I think Fast Track has. Otherwise, I know they have the printout for it. The odd thing was, he sent me some wonderful samples, is the code of the rail is so different. So he sent me some extra pieces to use as rail. I might use that. And then the tough part is the gauge, because I don't think the NMRA has a Z-scale gauge. I know they make HON-N and HON-3. Chad, what's the lowest number in HO I should use in a secondary and yard leads? 4. A number 4. I don't know. No, anything lower would be mine, but I've had number 4s if they're built fine and early, nice ones, Pico into points and the frogs. You can pack a lot in a yard with some number 4s and it'll look just fine, Do I have the Z? Yes, I have that Z-scale boxcar. Should I put it on the model here? I got all your paraphernalia over here, Keith. It's very cute. I think I'm going to put it on a flat car if I had one and run it around my layout. But yeah, I have the Z-scale boxcar because then I can test it running things back and forth. So I've built N-scale. I just finished building about 50 N-scale switches for someone in my operating group. And I've built HON-3. I haven't built O-scale yet, but I've built a lot of HO, HON-3, and N. Yeah, the yard ladders. And I agree with you, Heath. That's what I wanted. I got jealous of. I'd see the magazines and all the really nice layouts had yards that flowed and they curved and the switches. And you could tell they weren't the Atlas or Walters. Here's a 6, here's a 6, here's a 6. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted mine to flow. So, yeah. You're welcome, Chad. You guys got any other questions? Start building. Nisi, you should talk to me if you're still on the chat. I said this is an easy one in the AP program. Is civil engineering. It's not, it's a real pass-fail type. Things like that. Let's see what else I got here. See what other tools that I was using. Of course, the soldering iron. I'll unplug that now. And I use this is the Hako brass, and then all the fillings go down to the bottom. But I finally got a nice holder for my soldering iron. I think this is my original point form. And you can see it's worn out on the edges here. It's actually given up. This is a number 4. And they come apart. And then you can see the little gaps in there for where the rail goes in upside down. But that one I've had forever. They make nice weights. And like the stockade, so this is one for code 40 to 55. And then this one is 70 to 83. So you can get them in code 100. Code 100 is fine. I don't mind code 100 if you paint it. and weather it. Sparky, a tortoise switch machine. No, I do not. I am not a fan of the tortoise. I like seeing them on other people's layouts and clubs. I am more a hand thrown turnout. I will do another live feed or a video showing how I do my switch throws. They're all by hand. They work 110% and they all cost less than $4. And they work every time. They use a double pole, double throw switch as the mechanism. Couple strands of 040 wire and a dowel and a corner bracket. But you can use tortoise for these. That's why I was saying, like, leave this long throw bar, because if you have a tortoise, you're obviously gonna drill, right in the middle there, because that's where you want your tortoise throw rod, so you can center that. But no, I tortoise is probably be I don't. It's not that I don't like them. It's just more than what I need. Civil engineering, yes, Nissy. They have a civil engineering achievement program that you can earn that merit in. Dual gauge, yes, I've made dual gauge and HO and HON3, and I'm making a couple more. We now have some people in our Fremo group, Fremo, Minnesota, that have narrow gauge, and I want to have some dual gauge trackage. So, caboose ground throws. I have 2 on my layout because the turnouts, the switches, are right next to the edge, and I couldn't put in my throw rod mechanism. So I like the ground throws. I know they're not in scale. I know they're not this and that, but they're so reliable. I've seen people adapt them to many situations, putting pins underneath them so you can't squash them down. And I think that's one of the really simple turnout throws of those caboose ones. That's what I always used to go with. Now I have everything under the layout. Nisi, they had to have electrified turnouts. No. Your turnouts just have to work, so they have to have electricity going to them. But throwing the points can be manual. You could have it just like I have now. You could throw it with your finger. In fact, that was interesting talking to the who was laying track last night, Flying Crow, and I asked him what his switch mechanism was, and he held up his finger. So, yeah, no, Nisi, you don't have to hook up a tortoise or anything for that civil engineering. It has to be built by you, engage, and work. You have to run a train through it. And you have to build 3 different types. So this would be one type. A 3-way switch would be another one. A Y switch would be another one. You're done. Old Amtrak, okay, Dwight, Amtrak station St. Paul, where they would hand throw the switch to let the train. Yeah, that was still bad up on the Minnesota commercial. How do I attach a ground throw? You mean like a caboose one, Sparky, or like what I have? All of mine come up. All of mine would come up from the bottom. Piece of wire comes up, and it moves it. It doesn't move it like a tortoise. It let's see if I can draw it here. Kind of moves it like that, and as it comes up, and it pivots. And that's a whole nother video, climbing under my layout. I think that's the number one question I get asked, besides what are the balls on top of my overloads are. Everybody's like, how do you get those switches to work? So, but otherwise, attach a ground throw, like the caboose ones they were talking about. I drill a hole, wherever you'd fit on either side, and put your ground throw there, and move your points back and forth, or on whatever side you want. And then what you can do, like if your ground throws here, then you just cut this portion off. You just slice and dice. Anybody else? I bored everybody? It's good to see everybody. I'm going on vacation for a week, so I wanted to try this. I have to thank Heath for everything. I know we all blame Heath. That's so cute, but he saves our community. You really do. You really do, sir. So do you have to drill a hole? Yes. I drill a hole, Sparky. I drill a small hole for an 040 wire in the throw bar. I can do it in the middle, or I can do it on the side, and then I can use then for the switch machine I just have a detail part. I promise I will make that video. I promise I will have that live stream, and you guys will be with. Yeah, you want to see the layout? No, not tonight. That was my goal. Was I knew I'd get asked that, Heath. I will set up a layout tour because I'd like to do these. I'd like to do one at the bench, and then I'd like to do one on the layout. So I'd like to have an operations night, and then a workbench night, and a running night and a workbench night to explain the operations on the split rock mining. I will be glad to do that. I just can't do it all in one night. Sparky, okay, cut the copper tie. How does each rail head move together? Okay, so great question. I don't cut the copper tie. Let me grab it here. Probably haven't. All I have to do, and I will see if I can hold this up nice to the camera, and you can see the notches. I'll go to the other one. You have to cut a notch in there. These are the ones that already come notched. And so, if you took this file, and you went at it, you just have to gap the copper plating so you don't cut through the whole tie. And that's why when I'm done with the cutting, I go at this with an ohm meter, and I side to side, frog to this side, frog to that rail, and I make sure that everything is gapped before it goes to the layout. So all of those red marks that I said cut, I misspoke. That's notch. You just want to notch a bit into the PC coating. Here you can kind of see the notches in that one. That's for like regular rail. But that will keep the gap for electronics. Thank you, Chad. Yeah, I agree. It's a little bit precise. Thank you, Anthony. But you learn it. You learn from mistakes. I think everything I've learned the hard way. So it's just a matter of going through things part by part by part. And if you're getting frustrated, I walk away. I'll just do this. I can always come back and heat up the soldering iron. And the good news is, like with these, when you build them, you can fix them. It's like, okay, well, geez, that switch isn't working. What isn't working? I can unsolder, this point rail and build a new one and drop it in. So yeah, you're just cutting the copper, Adam. Yeah, to cut the power transfer. You're right. So. Correct, Heath. I'm just gapping the surface of the ties. I'm just gapping left rail, right rail, and gapping. The frog is all one unit. So if you use a frog juicer, then power goes to goes to the frog. And what a frog juicer does is it detects the short and instantly switches the polarity. You know, the bad part is I use PSX for block protection, and the PSX is faster than the frog juicer, so every now and then they battle it out. But everything is checked with an ohm meter, and then you go back, and lots of times I find that my gapping didn't do what I wanted to do, so I'll cut another gap or cut two. You know. Good night, Anthony. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, does that make more sense, Nisi? Okay. Okay. Yeah, everybody learns from their mistakes. That's what you don't. That's why my advice in my model railroading is, if you're starting out as you are, and is keep a couple of your mistakes. Keep your first weathering job. Keep your first switch. Just to look back. And if you look back at something and cringe, it's not bad. It shows that you've grown. You know, I'm sure I'm going to look back at this and all the goof ups in OBS and YouTube, and Heath can laugh at me, but I'll get better. I'll be like Heath. 500 streams later, I might know where the audio button is. So, I did prefer using a frog juicer, and I'm slowly coming around to changing it because I do use a double pole, double throw switch to throw my switches. Keep saying turnout. And my best friend who used my method of turnout throws changed his to power the frog that way. And that's what I would rather do, but I do prefer the frog juicer. And also with today's engines, if you have current keepers, soundtracks, or keep alives, TCS, whatever, you may not have to power your frogs, but I'm kind of a belt and suspenders guy when it comes to my trains running. I'd rather have frog juicers and the keep alives and not have my trains stutter anywhere. When people come to operate my layout, it's bulletproof. Nothing derails. There's no electrical glitches. There's no, bad switches. I take pride in that and trying to bulletproof my layout. So yeah, N scale, I'd power the frogs, and you can power them like Sparky with the tortoise is great for powering a frog. And I'll show you when I get, the next one when I come back from vacation. I'll work on my switch throws, and it'd be 3 little wires, and what it does, the double pole double throw switch would just take the power from this rail and put it, whichever one it's going to. And then you can save the money on frog juicers, which is kind of exorbitant, but I have a lot of them, and I'd like to sell them. Nisi, what are keep alives? Good question. Keep alives, or soundtracks current keepers, are a series of small capacitors that are added to a DCC engine. And what that does is, if you have a DCC engine and any of the power cuts out to it, these capacitors, once the train's running, are building up capacity of electricity. So if your train goes over dirty track and where it always stutters, the keep alives and current keepers will power that right through that. It's kind of creepy because I'm out of my set of Atlas 424s that I put it in. I can shut off the power and they'll run for 30 seconds. I can run them off the track. They'll run down my workbench. I'll run them on carpet because they're still getting juice. And you can still control them. But I don't have one handy, and I'm not going to take it out, but they're small little packets. If you go to Soundtrack's website and look up a current keeper, or TCS makes a great variety of them. It's a great device. to bulletproof your trains if you don't like them stalling in dirty tracks in non-powered frogs. Okay. Charge capacity. Yeah, DC. Yeah, you're right, Adam. Exactly. Dead frogs, dirty track, anything. They just kind of keep going. And that's why, excuse me, I call it belt and suspenders, because I've got powered frogs and I've got current keepers. So my pants are staying up no matter what that way. He's sending you a link. Is you sending him the current keeper link? My camera died again. All right. Oh, cutting plexi. Okay. What are you cutting plexi for? Oh, I'm going a while here. All right. Anybody got any other questions or that I missed? Somebody said grass and trees. So I expect you all to be building your own switches soon. And I will offer this to the community too. If you have a piece of track work you'd like to include in your layout, talk to me. If you don't want to build it, we can work something out. You know, this is relaxing for me. This is the part of the hobby I get. I come down and put on the smooth jazz and build out a yard ladder or build out some I like that. The more complicated, the better. I like building diamonds and weird stuff like that, but it's actually things like that. Oh, the clear inspection car cutting the acrylic. Yeah, that's about all this is with a couple of washers, plexiglass washers, and old trucks. Otherwise, get it a Micromark. Use your NMRA discount. They're not that bad. These are the hard things to find. That's what I wish I could get some more of those. These are precious to me. But yeah, building switches is just a good turnout. Yeah, 2-axle switcher. All right, I think I'm going to sign off and start packing up here. Unless you guys got anything else. It's good to see you all. Hope you all have a good week. Stay cool. It's almost 100 here. Wish me luck in camping. Thank you, Chad. I got a little slideshow at the end if you want to see more of the layout and more of the other stuff. I put it together. And I'll let that run. And Heath, I can't thank you enough. Looking forward to building your Z-scale stuff and helping you get that golden spike. And then someday I'll figure out StreamYard and I can bring you guys online. Randall, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Nisi. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, John. I will enjoy my vacation and might even imbibe in a drink. See how the wife lets me. I will, Chad. Heath, thank you. You got my number now. Call or text anytime. I like texting. I was taught that by my kids, so I'm a text fanatic. And if anybody else wants to call me, send me a DAM or something. I'll give you my number. You got any questions? Are those the cutoff wheels? I don't want to click on that link because I know it'll happen to my stream. What does it say, Heath? What size does it say? Mine are 7th, 8th by 0009. Otherwise, I'll send you pictures of these. Drew, thank you. See ya. Yeah, they look like they're okay, Adam. All right, yeah, look for anything thinner than a Dremel tool and wear your eye protection because they're gonna break. They're gonna break. They don't flex at all, but straight up and down. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Have a good week. I'll look forward to some Sidetrack Sunday. I should be home Sunday night. Expect to see a new costume from Nisi by then, I'm sure. Okay, those are the same ones. All right. How much were they? Did they say, Heath? How much are they? We'll find out. All right. Shall talk to you guys later. Yeah, we need a help. Yeah, they're not cheap. You're not cheap. All right. Lackawanna, have a nice night. Talk to you guys later.